Hey guys, Chaps here, and it's time for another developer stream recap. The latest beta tuning just went live, so Jim Bob and Jonathan Taylor were on to discuss it. Let's take a look.
On one hand of me, I've got Mr. Jonathan Taylor, who you guys all know is our lead gameplay designer, and then on the other hand, I've got Jim, just Jim, and like Cher or Madonna. Or no, Jim, you were a former pro. And you've been working at the Coalition for a while now, and in the QA side, and you're because of your insight and knowledge around the world of gears, you've actually been really helpful in making sort of suggestions around tuning, and you play a pretty instrumental role in sort of helping the game get to where we are right now. And the two of you guys together were responsible for the developer playlist, which we launched today.
A big part of it is we wanted to bring in a little bit more variety to the Nasher gameplay, and we found that the current meta of kind of two-shot down or jib was getting a little stale, as well as we felt like we lost something from the previous Gears games when it came to some of the Nasher combat, some of the strafe battles, and we found we had an opportunity to not only bring that back, but I think improve it by getting rid of a bunch of inconsistencies the game's had for a very, very long time. That when we looked at it, we didn't think, hey, this seems like we're just adding like piles on top of piles of different sort of changes, and we're not really getting to what we feel like is a core good experience by doing this. Like, let's look at removing these things that have been inconsistent for a long time, making it where you understand exactly what your shot's going to do, and then let's put more on the player to actually aim their shots and be landing these shots, and let's see how that works. And then we found that was just a lot more fun and a lot more of interesting gameplay. And so once we started going down that path, we just kept working with the tuning to keep driving it home. I think that's the big thing for me. It's like bringing back more interesting gameplay for those core weapons that most of the battles are done with, like the Nasher and the Lancer. And the movement is part of that, and some of the other things around the movement when it comes to being on regen while you're bouncing, and some of the magnetism when you're bouncing. So it all just works together to try to create that core experience that we feel like's been missing for a while, and we don't think we ever really had in the way we're happy with in Gears 5.
Right now, the preseason is currently scheduled to end on August the 18th. We are aware that there's a disconnect issue right now. The team is actively looking into it. We want to make sure that we're not going to be going and creating a ranked situation where people are going to be unfairly kicked out of matches where they might be losing scores. So we're trying to get an understanding of what the fix looks like for that, and then we're going to make a call. We'll keep you guys in the loop along the way for what that ranked is. The Chroma Steel's skins fund the esports program, and that goes into making sure the esports program can work, but also that revenue is shared with our partners and so on and so forth. So the way that we have, for us, from a revenue accounting reconciliation process, real world currency allows us to go and do that, because with the way that iron is accrued, and because you can earn it in the tour or various things like that, as we're going and investing into our esports program, the reason why we moved away from the previous system where you could use iron into the system where we wanted to use real world currency, it is basically to help support the esports program and the revenue partners and agreements that we've done going down that path.
At this point, Jim Bob loaded into Private Match to explain and showcase all of the changes that are in the beta playlist. I excluded that here in this video for the sake of time. You can feel free to watch it, the full stream is linked below, but it's also all highlighted in the blog post, which is also linked below.
And we know that Quick Play does not have the new maps. That is a known bug that is being worked on. I believe it's in the next update, but Jote, do you know, I remember?
But no, we don't have an ETA for the fix yet.
Any chance we can hear Jonathan about expanding on pulling away from the two-shot down or the jib meta, possibly to a one-shot down in the dev playlist?
We haven't really talked about a one-shot down. Really, I don't know. It's something I can take away and think on. I honestly haven't spent a lot of time thinking about what that would mean. I can't imagine that would fit well with what we have right now without some changes. But yeah, I don't have a clear answer for that one, I guess.
Let people know that Michael Shannon, PvE man extraordinaire, is going to be on next week. So any questions you have around Escape, around Horde, anything PvE, we're going to talk about those next Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Have you guys considered giving back the game point match cost? Oh, this is a rank question for you, Jote. Sure. Have you guys considered giving back the game points, Gears points match cost back to the winners, so there's more of a reward than the 30-40? Basically, you get your ante as well as something else.
Well, I think what he's saying is like after you account for the match entry cost, the amount of points you can gain is like lower than what they're looking for. Yeah. Feel free to clarify in the chat if that's not what you're asking. The point of that is to slow down the speed at which you move upwards, especially at higher ranks. So the idea is at Masters you have to perform in order to move up. Now, I think there's some balance stuff. I'm sure people are going to ask questions about the changes we made to King of the Hill values, and we're still looking at those. So, and we can talk more about those when people ask the question. Yeah. But yeah, so the point is though the gain is supposed to go slower as you move upwards. So it requires more winning in order to actually move up or more performing. We're looking at a lot of things there. I recognize there's stuff we talked about it last week, but I'll go ahead and talk about it again. We're looking at ways to better incentivize and reward solo play. We feel like right now there's a lot of stuff that can be really brutal to a solo player when they're going against stacks and a little demoralizing, not really representative of their work and how much they're actually doing in terms of what they get rewarded. There's some stuff around quitters that we're looking at in terms of smoothing that out and also rewarding players that are doing the best on both teams. One that we didn't talk about much, but something we're starting to talk about more internally is also closer matches aren't really giving you what you'd expect. So say a match goes to round 3 of King of the Hill, that team that won one of those rounds but lost the match really doesn't get a lot of benefit for that round win. So we're looking at ways we can improve that as well.
Why should someone have aim assist on while using the beta playlist?
Jim, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, because we want to get a better feel for all the changes, right? Because if you play with aim assist toggled off, you won't really be testing the changes we've made to magnetism on the ADS fire or the LT fire of the Nasher. And also, like, we kind of want to get information on how the Lancer performs with aim assist on with this tuning.
Oh, how come Horde and Escape have different movement to Versus?
The campaign, Escape, and Horde are still using the Season 1 movement of Gears of War 4. So it's got a lot of like cooldown reductions on the slide, and I think I've asked this question in the past, and it was just QA time to like implement those changes everywhere in the game. So like have a single movement tuning everywhere would take a lot of time to like test edge cases where it would break the game.
Since the change has not been able to roll off the edge of cover, have you considered making it so you can run off cover in the direction you want to roll in the past?
This is the sticky cover.
Yeah, Jim, do you want to talk about that?
Like right now, the prompt is giving me X. For me to roll out of cover, I need to tap X instead of hold X. If I'm holding the button, it won't actually move me out of that cover option.
God damn, I can't.
So it's more about just moving more stuff to tap, so that when you hold stuff, it will work, like roadie run-wise.
Yeah, I think there's still some like user experience problems there that we're looking at that are confusing to people. So I think it's something we need to. I'm hearing it a lot still, and it might be just something like a toggle that we can address or something.
So previously, if I was doing like movements like this, I would hit this corner and just roll. Right, it's eliminating rolling from cover in a lot of situations.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. I think the expectation of some players in that situation is different because it's been that way for so long, and so we just need to look at that a little closer to make sure we didn't create something that's really confusing or feels broken to people. Yeah, it sounds like from feedback that we have, so just want to call it out. Like I think that the change was seen as a positive, but I think that a lot of people that are used to a certain thing and now that certain thing feels broken or unresponsive is something we need to address. So I want to make sure people know we're not just like pushing it aside. We are going to look at it. And we need to understand like what we've changed and how we can probably get that feeling less sticky for people that are using that control scheme or those control schemes.
Yeah. About the FFA, the Nasher being on the opposite side of where you want them to be inside of your game. That is we're aware of it. It has been flagged with the team. Not a client side, I mean a server side fix. So that requires a bit of an update in code and queuing and so on and so forth. So right now, where we are with that is it's been flagged. We're looking at it and we're getting a cost estimate is like how much time is it going to take to make it work.
Well, there's a chance, Dana. Like we talked about it yesterday in our triage session. So, and I'll follow up with folks. Yeah. So there might be something we can do in the meantime that will resolve it. It may also need a client change eventually to get rid of some edge cases with it, but we are looking at ways we can push something live without requiring a big update. We recognize that it's a muscle memory problem for a lot of people, including myself. So
were you happy with Guardian? It was in there.
We've
for
made
2
some
weeks.
changes. Yeah, I mean, it's still there now. It's there in quick play for folks
Yeah.
to go and play it and continue to give feedback. There's 2 issues that I think I really want to resolve. It's less about going into ranked and more about quality of life for Guardian. So one is there was spawning behavior that was different in Gears 4 and than it is in Gears 5, actually in all the previous Gears, where if your leader died while you're in the spawn queue, you would still spawn in, and that's actually changed with 5, and we don't think it's healthy. So we're looking at resolving that. So multiplayer gameplay is looking at what we need to do to fix that. And then I think we're having still issues with you're gonna teabag, Kenny. I don't think we're at a spot where people really see the spawning happening, the spawn flipping rather, happening as clearly as we want. So people sometimes get spawned from behind and they're like, what the fuck was that all about? Because the little banner and the little sound is not easy to catch when you're in the middle of a big firefight. So there's some stuff there, and there's been some reported inconsistencies with spawn flipping in general that we need to look at. So overall, I'm happy with like the new ability and some of the new gameplay we've been able to bring into Guardian. But I don't think we still have some room to go there. When it comes to ranked, like I said, it's going to be a conversation operation, which modes we think best represent the ranked experience we want to give. It wouldn't be for Operation 4 at this point, but I wouldn't put it out of the question for the future.
And then everyone asking about the boost and the double XP weekend. I thought it was being turned on tomorrow, so which is why I didn't talk about it. So yes, right. What now is everyone's getting free boost this weekend, and we're also doing a double XP weekend. So what that basically means is if you're boosted, which you should be, and with it being double XP, you actually are getting 4 times XP all weekend long. DBNO in FFA. Why?
Yeah, I saw people bring this. Well, there's a few different things. I think that I understand where people are coming from. They're asking about DBNO. Like, I think it was, Judgment didn't have DBNO. He just died outright, for instance. I think that I get where they're coming from. People stealing downs, and they think, oh, that would have been my kill had DBNO not been there, and that guy would have died outright. I think there's also still problems with people that are landing bullets from a distance and landing that last hit. That will become the new frustration.
Be like,
so there's
steal kills. You could just spray into fights, basically.
It depends on the circumstance. I think stealing kills will change. I don't think it's going to be easier. I think we just move the problem around a little bit. It's not anything we've actually tested fully internally. It's just something we looked at the player dynamic and what's this actually going to cause. I wouldn't put it away completely as, hey, this is something we'll never try, but not right now.
Can we adopt the execution or the DBNO rules in Escalation for all playlists?
Sure. So folks that aren't familiar, Gridiron and Escalation have damage mitigation at range. So it's not execution rules, but it is harder to finish off a target that's DBNO at a distance, which is something we've looked at the tuning for a bit.
And you can't tap up as well.
It isn't necessarily tied to that, because in Gridiron you can tap up, in Escalation you can't. So that's a separated piece of it. Like, that's something we can change pretty easily. We've looked at it before. I think right now we don't have any sort of movement to like make that the version people have, because they're so familiar with the one they've had for a while. As we look at modes and make changes to them and bring them back out, I think that's an opportunity for us to apply those sort of things. So I'd say just like look as we start to bring out older modes, and there may be things there that we're addressing when it comes to some of the damage while DBNO. But as in terms of like changing the wider game to be that way, no, that's not part of the conversation right now.
Why can't we make a controller layout where it bounces as if you are on default, but you don't roll so classic alt, but bounce like default? I mean, is this maybe a different question I want to ask rather than the multitude of? Is there a scenario by which we could see people being able to map their controller 100% the way that they want?
I think there'd be some bugs with that. There are some bugs already that we've exposed and then fixed. I know there's like small limitations on that. I don't know all the limitations. Some of them are technical. Some of them are like you have to go and look at the flow diagram, what all the buttons do, and if you overload the input with too many things, and suddenly you're going to have a really negative experience of it. And so I think that we try to balance the power we give the player with the trying to prevent people from breaking things or put them in a situation where their control scheme doesn't work at all. But yeah, if there's particular pieces or things people want to toggle that they can't, and they want to bring those up, we can talk to the gameplay team about those and see what the limitations are.
Oh man, I have so many comments about the control schemes. I even did a full video series about it. I think what this fan is trying to bring up is the idea of a dedicated roll button, which I've been asking for years now. Hopefully someone at TC will finally see one of these videos I've made about it, but I won't get my hopes up.
Can we get our Gears points entry fee back when somebody quits?
So this is if they quit during the match and not for a
Yes.
dissolve. There's two different things happening right now, just to clarify. So there's an issue where if somebody quits during the lobby, the match dissolves before it kicks off, and it takes a while for your entry fee to come back. And based on the data, it looks like everybody's entry fee is coming back, but sometimes it takes a little longer, and it doesn't give you a message that's super clear right now. So you might just get points you don't even notice, right? That's kind of the way it works right now. We're looking at making that messaging better. So that is working. There's a delay there naturally because that's kind of how the system works and has to give you refunds. We're making sure that delay is not crazy long, but there is some delay there. The other thing is if you are in a match and say everybody quits out and you're stuck there and you just have to finish a match where you're getting beaten in the ground, it's a miserable experience. We're looking at things to improve at least the value you get out of that match. I recognize it doesn't really mean that much to you if you're getting stomped in a 1v5 and farmed. But there are things we're going to try to do to make at least that experience a little less painful and psychologically painful.
Neon, are you able to confirm that it's actually 4 XP and not 3 XP? Did some calculating last night and compared it this morning. It feels actually a bit like 3 times. I'm going by what I was told. So what I've been told is what I believe. However, I'd have to go and quadruple check and ask someone down that path, but my understanding is we just double the XP. It's just a multiplier number that we put in the code. So I believe that's the case, but if it's not, don't bite me in the butt for it. And then someone saying it is 3 times, I swear. I'll ping the person who's responsible for that on the dev team once the stream's over, and just make sure that the multiplier is correct in this scenario. But someone asked about the Karn voice acting. I don't know about that one specifically. I do know that in general, the world of COVID has made some of our voice capture a little more challenging in terms of the characters. I don't know about Karn specifically, but I do know that there has been a few times where we've tried to get a person to come in and avoid voice lines, and it hasn't been as easy, so we've had to repurpose or what have you.
We're looking at Escalation. So we're looking at making some changes to it, both that have been feedback from the players that have been playing in tournaments as well as general public. One of the things about the list is it wasn't highly populated, so matchmaking times and finding matches could be very difficult, especially in certain regions. So that was one of the reasons we didn't want to continue just to have it as part of the new rank system. It'd be a drain on that. We are looking at making adjustments to it to improve a lot of the issues we have. There's some stuff with, people capping the hills at the start and some weirdness around fighting over the center ring to be able to make it where you barely win based on points, and some other stuff that we don't think is good for the game that we're looking at making fixes and changes to. So we're hoping to be able to bring that back out into the beta playlist format. So it may just be a featured event, or it might actually fill in the beta list when other changes are done there. But it'll be a little while before that happens. It requires some code changes and some updates that we can't just push as part of live service. So we're actively looking at that, though. And we're looking at that. We're looking at TDM, and we're also looking at Gridiron. But I don't have a clear ETA. We just have to continue to play test internally and make sure that we are putting it out there in a way that people can play and give feedback on, and make sure we didn't miss anything or put something in there that's going to hurt the experience. So we're trying to take our time and doing it right when it comes to updating the modes, but move as quickly as possible, because we recognize if we're not doing movement, we're not doing updates to it, and you just keep hearing us talk about, our changes are coming, and then that wears them pretty quick. So.
Any changes coming to the re-up reward system? That is something that is being worked on, and I believe those changes will be coming in Operation 5. Any info on the Chainsaw Retro bug with the unintentional reloading or lack of response while holding the button?
Yeah, that's another one I think it'd be good to talk to Jamie about in detail, to talk about where it's at right now, and kind of ask questions around it. I've run into it as well. There's times in which you're on a cooldown for being able to chainsaw or retro charge, and you don't know that, and so you press the button and it initiates a reload, and it usually jams that reload for me. So I think other people are running into that same thing. Something that got brought up this morning in one of our internal dev play tests. But so it's not something that we're not aware of, but he would be the one to be able to better speak to that.
This has been an issue since Operation 3. There's actually quite a few triggers for it. I'd say the main one bothering me is jamming when getting stunned from some crossfire. Either way, it's nice to finally see this acknowledged, and I'm really hoping they can get a fix in for this. I'm not too optimistic though, I'm guessing it won't be until Operation 5 at the earliest.
The assets in the TCA folder, that is something where it had been prioritized, and then we got down several staff members, and that was an example of us just moving work out. We're slowly building our team back up again, so hopefully we can rectify that situation in the future. We thought we had a workaround, but the person who I was hoping I could take advantage of, unfortunately, doesn't have that bandwidth, so we're seeing what we can do. But it is something that that is something that is important for us. It is definitely a failure. But much like the scope on the dev side that Jonathan's talking about, we're having to make priority decisions on my team side, and that was just one of those ones that we want to get to it. And it's just something that as my team gets bigger or back to its full capacity, then it'll be easier for us to support that in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever thought about making spotting only ping the player's location and not completely track them?
It's been brought up a few times. I mean, you can spot people and hit them through smokes right now. It's part of the gameplay. It's been there since Gears 3. A lot of other games will show a mark where that person was standing, and it will stay static, so you kind of know where they were, but not where they are. Spotting system is not something we've done much with between Gears 3 and Gears 5, so it's something we probably will eventually take a look at, but it's not anything that we're concentrating on right now.
And that does it for this week's recap. As a quick plug, our next community discussion stream will be 1 week from today. I'll be joined by Neon Velocity, the Razored Edge, and Dana himself. As you can probably guess, the topic this time will be the community. We'll cover everything from what the community team does to transparency, what we like, and what we don't like. If any of you have any questions that you would like to see answered, be sure to send them our way. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you think we've earned it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will catch you next time.